What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Full-Time MLS. My name is Randy. This is my best friend, Christian. I'm going to be transparent with you guys. It's been a minute since we've done this podcast. We still have 15 more teams to preview ahead of next weekend's 2026 kickoff. And this podcast, our schedules have not lined up at all. On top of that, we've been ready to go today, but we've been dealing with so many internet issues. We've both restarted our routers. This is like the third or fourth time trying. Christian, do I have you?
Yeah, this is way better. Way better.
You scared me so much. You still were like a second to respond, and I was like, oh, Lord almighty.
Yeah, that was all part of the plan.
Yeah, it was terrifying. Christian, how have you been the past week? It's been a minute since we've been able to do this.
Busy, but I'm excited to get back into it. We got, what do you say? We're halfway through, right? So we got, I think it's coming up on next week's the season, right? So, and I guess this would be the perfect time to drop that we will be going to the St. Louis game. If you haven't seen on our Twitter or wherever we posted.
Yeah, definitely check out that post on social media. Follow us on any social media platform, Instagram, TikTok, X. You can follow us at MLS Full-Time. I know it gets confusing. Our podcast is Full-Time MLS, and then it's reversed for Instagram and all that. But make sure to follow us at MLS Full-Time. What Christian just said, we're going to the opening day MLS game, St. Louis hosting Charlotte. Christian, we've never been to St. Louis. Mm-hmm. But this is going to be like our third MLS opening day game that we've ever been to. What'd you say?
I'll say not just opening game, our opening day game. We're going to the opening game, right?
The first game of the season, and you guys are going to get to experience it with us. We will be posting a vlog, I believe, on Monday about our experience. So, Christian, we're going to take them all over Soccer Town around St. Louis's stadium. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, St. Louis is a stadium we've wanted to get to since they came into the league, so it's going to be nice to finally get in there. And like you said, opening day, even better.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. We'll give you more information and talk about that a little bit later on as well. But Christian, are you ready? We got 5 teams to talk about today. We know we're going to be here for about an hour. Are you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
All right, here's our first team. Yes, Austin FC. They finished 6th in the West, 15th in MLS in general. Finished the season with 47 points, 13 wins, 13 losses, 8 draws. They did find some success last season. They made it to the playoffs. They were swept by LAFC in the first round. And then they also made it to the U.S. Open Cup finals against, Nashville. And they lost to Nashville in the final. So they found success last season, but there is still some room to grow. We've got brand new graphics here on our show. Hope you guys like them. And then, Christian, I'm going to throw it over to you before we get into all the notes here. What stood out to you about Austin FC's 2025 season?
I mean, Austin was a team that saw key injuries like the guy on the screen here, Brandon Vasquez, tore his ACL. And they also saw they were the least scoring team in all of the playoffs, right? They only had 37 goals scored. But I do think that they did a good job going in this offseason and covering that, which I'm sure we'll touch on. Outside of that, I think that they were a good team. Owen Wilf really emerged as the team's best attacking threat, 7 goals, 8 assists. He's going to come into this year probably injured as well. So I have high hopes for Austin, though, coming into the season.
Well, hopefully they can get the injuries out of the way. I love that you brought up how low scoring they were, specifically with playoff teams. The weird thing about Austin FC and what I put in my notes is scoring was a struggle. This is exactly word for word what I put. Scoring was a struggle for Austin throughout the season, despite strong attacking players. That's what confused me. Now, you have Brandon Vasquez. He only played 19 games before having his season-ending ACL injury, but you have some other players like obviously Owen Wolf was there. Azuni showed some promise on the, you're hoping to get a little bit more out of him as well. That's what was really weird about Austin. I feel like they've got good attacking pieces. It just felt like they were one of those teams where the attacking pieces weren't doing everything to the best of their ability, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Because even Brandon Vasquez, sorry to cut you off, just to add on to that. Brandon Vasquez, I mean, he only had 5 goals, 0 assists in 19 games. We remember Brandon Vasquez, his best time was in Atlanta. It was at something about FC Cincinnati. Those were his best days. And I think the one question that has always been surrounding Brandon Vasquez is like that final touch. And there are some times that he needs to do better with that. And so even though you look at it, yes, he had that season-ending injury, 19 games, 5 goals, you still expect more from a guy you brought in to be your number 9.
Yeah, I think Brandon Vasquez also definitely saw a lot of help from Luciano Acosta at this time of Cincinnati, because I don't necessarily think Austin has a guy that can really create offense like that, like Luciano. I mean, we're talking about one of the better creators we've seen. But I think that they also noticed a similar issue, as you said, and obviously to kind of branch off, that's when they brought in Facundo Torres, right?
Yeah, perfect signing to bring in, right? You're looking at who can we go out, who can we get to bring in some more goals, hopefully, and whether that is actually scoring, putting the ball in the back of the net, or that's someone who can assist the ball as well, which is exactly what Torres can do. He did it well for Orlando City. He's great at creating goals, whether that is passing or actually putting it in the back of the net. We can talk about who they brought in. You brought up Facundo Torres, DP signing for 9.5 mil. So they went out and invested to bring him into the squad to hopefully get him some goals. Every other signing has been small ones. Jaden Nelson acquired him from Vancouver. Joseph Rosales, they acquired him from Minnesota. And then you had a free agent signing of John Bell. So you have pretty much 3 defenders. 2 of them can play midfield. So Torres is their big signing that they brought in. So the question is, Christian, with the people they lost, they didn't really lose anybody other than Osman Bakari, who is probably their biggest loss. So they're bringing Torres in to hopefully fill part of his void that he's going to leave behind, as they transferred him to Widzu Lotz. I probably said that way wrong. But then the other people they kind of bought out, Julio Cascante, Diego Rubio, Jimmy Farkaloon, not really names that are going to change the squad too much. So I guess the question is, Facundo Torres took a year out of MLS. He's back. I think it was just a year, if I remember correctly. Is he going to be a big enough piece to come in and change this Austin side and give them the attacking prowess that they're going to be looking for?
I mean, you talk about Facundo, 47 goals and 25 assists in his 123 games with Orlando. Obviously was explosive in that Orlando team. And you brought up the 9.5 mil price tag, and I know it seems like a big number in the league. So I went ahead and did a little research here while you were breaking it down, and Uzuni was was a $12.3 million transfer, and they went ahead and paid 10 mil on Brandon Vasquez. So you're looking at a guy who's coming in, less than both of those players what they're paying, and I think he can do he'll have a better goal output than Brandon Vasquez did for sure.
I'm excited to see him back in this league, and you should have Vasquez come back, be healthy this year. I think I am with the front office, and you want to see more from Uzuni this season. 6 goals, 3 assists. It's not enough, in my opinion. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, the 9 goal contributions for a guy who's your record signing is just not going to cut it.
No, exactly. So you expect more from him. You had a -8 goal differential, so it's not like attacking is the only issue. You got to go out and solve some defensive issues as well, which is a common thing with MLS teams. We know in this league they have great attacking players. The defense is still lacking behind a little bit. So that's a common thing to have to solidify that back line. And we're going to talk about some teams today who actually have had a pretty good back line for the most part. You have Nico Estevez, head coach, looking to, I think this is his second. No, this is his first or second season as head coach. This is his second, right?
Yeah, I think second.
Yeah, second full season as head coach. Owen Wolf, going to start off injured, but you'll have him back at some point. Christian, we keep beating around the bush about yes, this team had its struggles offensively, but they had some good moments as well. Like making it to the finals of the US Open Cup was a huge step forward for this club compared to the struggles they've been having in recent years. And they were able to make the postseason. Unfortunately, they did not put up much of a fight to LAFC, but they were able to get, to the first round. So is this a club coming into 2026 that could take that next step forward? I think is what we got to look at. And is Facundo Torres that player who you put him around Brandon Vazquez? You just said it earlier that he relied heavily on Lucha Acosta to get him the ball in. Is Facundo Torres going to be that player who could maybe unlock the goal scoring ability that Vazquez does show signs of, if not consistently?
And you also got a question, can Uzuni be the guy to step up and be, the guy he was brought in to be? You spend $12.3 million on a guy to be in your midfield, you kind of want a little bit more creative side to him. I like the moves they made. Did you bring up Joseph Rosales? Because I actually really like that move as well, with a trade with Minnesota, because he's coming in a guy who can kind of play on the back line and be a box-to-box midfielder, right? I think he had 5 goals, 18 assists for the Loons over 128 appearances. So that's another guy I think can come in and really help them create goals.
I did bring him up. I've had mixed reactions about Joseph Rosales over the years. I expect a little more from him. Back in 2023, that was a Gold Cup. My bad. Looking here. Here we go. In 2023, he had 1 goal in 18 matches. 2024, 1 goal in 33. 7 assists that season, which was really impressive. And then last year in 28 matches, 1 goal, 2 assists. So he's always been a solid player that you can play in that midfield role. You don't get that much output from him, which concerns me, because that's, I think, everything we've been saying. That's what this team really needs, is some more output from their players.
Well, and I think the 18 assists across 128 games really stands out for a guy who is very versatile and can play the left back position and a box-to-box midfielder. I don't think you're really looking at goals here. I think that's why you brought in Facundo, right? You brought in your goals. You're kind of looking for guys that can be a creative outlet to him.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get to my key to success here for Austin FC. We've been driving it into the ground, so you're going to have to hear me say it again. Attacking players need to provide what they're brought in to do. The talent's there. Now use it. They've got a solid squad. I think it's going to be interesting in this Western Conference. I think for the most part, the Western Conference has really improved. Last season, again, they ended up finishing 6th in the West. I think that's going to be hard to do again. My realistic expectations for Austin FC this year is anywhere from the 12 to 8 range. I think they could. Yeah, I think they're going to take a step back. Facundo Torres is going to be a huge get for them, but with some of the other Western Conference teams we're talking about, like I think Houston's going to be better than them this year. I'll be interested to see what Real Salt Lake, what happens with them, but I've really liked the signings that they've made. San Jose Earthquakes bringing in Timo Werner. The question is, what's going to be around Timo Werner? That's going to be a big question. I mean, we even talked about the Portland Timbers, who I think could do better. I think there's some other teams that could leapfrog them this year. I don't know if Facundo Torres is going to be enough, unless I'm going to look like a fool if these guys start scoring. If they start scoring, then I'm going to look like a fool, and they could get as high as potentially 6th again or 5th.
Talking about falling to 12th, I think is a bit crazy, considering I think they did bring in the right pieces to.
That's worst case scenario. That's what I'm saying. 12 to 8.
And like you said, we're beating a dead horse, but at the same respect, like 37 goals, you're not going to get in the playoffs again, right? I think that was an anomaly, and if they do the same thing, it's just not going to happen again. But that's why my 3 X factors, a lot of it, I mean, they all go into the attack. Number 1, I have Facundo Torres. He's a number 1 X factor to me. You got a DP with elite MLS attacking pedigree. Could be the catalyst for transitioning Austin into a top 6 scorer. Number 2 is Owen Wolff, right? Already a creative engine, and I think he could explode into the U.S. men's national team contention with a double digit in goals and assists. Number 3 is a healthy attack synergy. If Vasquez returns strong and meshes with Torres, Wolf, Azuni, then the scoring efficiency will jump.
All right, well, Christian, then I have to ask you, since you kind of got on to me about it. I mean, what's your overall expectations for Austin FC this season? Like, where do you see them? What is their range?
I think if they get 37 goals up to, let's give them 12 and give them to 49, I think this is a team that can finish anywhere from 5th to 8th. I do not see falling all the way back to 12.
All right. Well, let us know in the comments who you guys agree with. And if you're excited for Austin FC's season, we did a lot of talk about the former Orlando City player, Facundo Torres. Let's go ahead and go to his former club, Orlando City. That is so badass. I got to be honest. That intro was one of the best we've had so far. Yes, we are here talking about Orlando City SC, 14th in MLS, 9th in the Eastern Conference, 14 wins, 9 losses, 11 draws. They made it to the wild card of the Eastern Conference playoffs before losing to Chicago. Their head coach remains Oscar Pereira. Their leading goal scorer was Martin Ojeda with 16 goals. This was a disappointing end for the club in 2025. They had a very competitive season, and unlike Austin, they had a good attack. The only player that really took a step back was Duncan McGuire in 2025 as he struggled to find the same footing that he had in 2024. Obviously, the big talk around this club was Alex Freeman. We'll get more into him because he has since been transferred to Villarreal. But he was named Young Player of the Year in MLS and named to the Best 11. And that is the first, or I didn't know this, first Orlando City player to be named to Best 11 in MLS history. All those years with Nani never won.
But you got to think Orlando went through a long stretch of just not being good.
But they were good when Nani was here. Facundo Torres found success. Like, I feel like in the East.
No, I agree. It is surprising for sure.
Ever since we've watched this team, Christian, I feel like they've always been that like mid team in the East. I mean, they are, in recent years, it's changed, but they are the Crystal Palace of the MLS in the sense they're always just, they've got their range. It's right here, and they can be a tough out, but I feel like
not a bad comparison considering Orlando's seen an uptick in the last couple of years as Palace has as well. That's not a terrible comparison.
Yeah, I think they're going in the right direction. They've got some promising young players, but before we talk about their impact players, who's left, who they've signed, let's get your opinion on what went wrong or what went right for Orlando City in 2025.
I mean, this is a team that, squeezed in the playoffs, got beat 3-1 to Chicago. What I really want to focus on is what's out the door this year for Orlando for Orlando. You're seeing a lot of change on the back end, right? You got a goalkeeper leaving, you got Alex Freeman leaving, which is a whole nother conversation because I think Alex Freeman left a little early. I would have liked to see him replicate what he did before making the move to Europe because we're talking about he had a great season, right? Alex Freeman was, like you said, MLS Best 11, Young Player of the Year. If he could have came out and did that again, then I think maybe that would have been a great move for him. But I really do think he left a little early.
Especially with the World Cup being in, the Americas and Canada this year. It would have been great for him.
Is he going to start for Villarreal, right? Like, I don't know if he's going to have the playing time that he definitely would have had at Orlando. He would have been a sole focus of this team. And to be honest with you, the biggest question to me is how do you replace that?
Yeah, I don't think they've done it so far either because it's so hard to replace a player like Alex Freeman. With Austin FC, I brought up the point where in MLS, the back line is far and away worse than these attacking. That's so mean to say, but the attacking players in this league are just so good. And I feel like we still haven't reached the point where big time defenders are coming over to the league like big time attackers are. And so it's tough when you have like a Son or a Messi or a Thomas Mueller signing to this league to go against, some of these players that they have playing on that back line. But Alex Freeman was a gem. He was a defender who can score as really well as well. This is a guy who had 6 goals last year, 3 assists, really burst onto the scene. I wanted to look up, how old is Alex Freeman, by the way? He is
22, 23.
21 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 21 years old. and I feel like if you did wait, I don't know if Freeman would have been happy, but do you think you could have got more for him is the question.
I mean,
how much was he sold for?
Because here's the thing, like you said, he's 21. He's getting close to that age to where like they can no longer keep him as the under 22. So I don't know that necessarily it was a terrible move for the club, as they probably would have had issues.
Do you want to know how much they sold him for?
Yeah,
they got $4 million, and add-ons could bring up the potential value exceeding $7 million. So basically, $4 to $7 mil is what they sold him for to Villarreal.
Yeah, see, I think he's worth more than that, to be honest.
I mean, only 21 years old. They kind of got a steal.
This is your first player in your franchise history to crack the MLS top 11, and you're only getting $4 mil out of him. I don't know that I like that, but
and it's taking a big risk to get more because obviously he has certain incentives that he has to hit. Alex Freeman had one really good year. What if he goes over to Europe, doesn't work out, and he's one of those players that we see back in MLS in 2 to 3 years? It happens a lot.
Reggie Cannon is a similar player, right? A guy I really want to touch on, because we're talking a lot on Alex Freeman, another guy.
And he's not on that squad anymore.
Yeah. A guy I also want to touch on out the door, that we talked a lot on Alex Freeman, is Gillespie, right? Gillespie leaves. He's been the centerpiece and between the sticks for them. They're going to replace him with Maxime Crepeau. What do you think going forward? Is that going to be a good enough replacement for Gillespie?
I remind you, Orlando City got really screwed in the offseason because Maxime Crepeau was not their first choice at goalkeeper. They were going to get Carlos Coronel from New York Red Bulls. He had a signed agreement with them. And or not signed, but a verbal. That's what I'm saying. He had a verbal agreement with them. And literally a couple days before he was supposed to go down to get his physical done, he said, nope, I changed my mind. I want to go to Brazil. And so that's really tough for your club because, you were already planning to have him around for the season. I wish they faced each other at some point. I would have loved that. But I think you got the next best option. There's a lot of goalkeepers moving. When we did our Portland video, we talked a little bit on Maxime Crepeau, and I feel like this is one of the best goalkeepers in the league that doesn't get talked about in the same way that Dane St. Clair, obviously the people from Europe who come over, Coronel got talked about a lot. I just feel like he's extremely underrated. He wasn't even in the same talk as Pedro Gillespie, as a lot of people would bring him up as being one of the top goalkeepers. Sean Johnson. Why does no one talk about Maxime Crepeau? He's bounced around ever since leaving, Vancouver was his original home. Then I believe he went to LAFC. Then he made his way to Portland, and now he's on to Orlando. This is a solid goalkeeper in this league. Do you lose that much between him and Pedro Gillespie? I don't know. I don't know if you do.
I think you do. I do like Crepeau. I do. I just think Gillespie is that good.
Look, you've always been a Gillespie fan. Always loved Pedro Gillespie. I keep saying his name because I like saying his name. But don't disrespect Maxime Crepeau, though. Like, he's a good goalkeeper.
I think Crepeau is a great goalkeeper. I just think that while losing players on your back line, including Gillespie, without going out and physically finding a replacement on the right side for the right back position, I think definitely hurts them.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about who left, who's came in. We've talked about Gillespie. He went off to Peru. Cesar Araujo left for Tigres. Rodrigo Schlegel transferred to Atlas. Kyle Smith going to your boys FC Cincinnati. Shaq Mohammed's going to Nashville. Obviously Alex Freeman, and then Fabian Loyola going to Chile. And then the people they've brought in to replace some of those pieces, a lot of young players, Christian. This is a team that feels like they've got a good academy as well, or they've got a good developmental system. They brought in 3 under-22 players. They brought in Thiago Souza from Bahia, who they're really expecting to slide in and be, a good young player immediately for them. They brought in Luis Otavio from Brazil, and they brought in Iago Teodoro from Flamengo, also a club in Brazil. This is a team that's really focusing on developing a Brazilian culture with the club, with some of these young players they're bringing in. And then the other big person they brought in besides Crepeau is Brian Ojeda from RSL, who our friend Marcos at the RSL Bros mentioned when he joined the show. So I had to ask you, Christian, you are more than I am. You love these young players coming into the league. You love seeing players develop. Any of these names before we go on to the more impactful players for this squad sticking out to you as someone you're excited to watch?
I mean, you hit it right on the head. Orlando really went out and dug into the Brazilian league. I mean, all 3 of these guys coming out of the Serie A in Brazil. I think Souza is definitely interesting. Like you said, they have high expectations for him. In 81 appearances, 20 goals and 3 assists. Teodoro is going to go on the back line for them. He's going to be a center back. And then Otavio, he's 18 years old, definitely has a chance to kind of grow. And like you said, Orlando's done a great job getting these guys from the South American countries and turning them into stars.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see. I mean, Orlando City is just a team we don't talk about a lot with their developmental system and their homegrown players, but they are very good. They've shown over the years that they can develop these young players. Obviously, Alex Freeman was a perfect example of that. Look, we've been talking a lot about Orlando City already. We do have to get to their impact players. We have a man sitting right down here in the bottom right-hand corner, Martin Ojeda, who was absolutely incredible. He signed a new DP contract that will keep him at the club unless they sell him. Through the 28 and 29 season, 16 goals, 15 assists last year. He was absolutely fantastic for them, kind of leading their midfield. You have Marco, I'm going to say his name wrong, Pasalic, 12 goals, 5 assists playing up top for them. He was as great. He gave them what they needed from him. I do think they expect more from Atuesta. Obviously, we know about his time from LAFC. But Edward Atuesta, 0 goals last year, 7 assists. He's not going to be someone who goes out and gets you double-digit goals, but you do expect something from him. The 7 assists is respectable, but I think they'll be hoping for more. And then Robin Janssen, I thought has always been a great, solid piece to that back line. He remains for the club. I had him as an impact player as well. Any of these players you want to touch on, Christian, before I get to my key to success and your X factors?
No, I think you did a good job of summing it up. Atuesta, I don't really think has ever been a guy that's, like you said, is going to go get goals, but he's going to be the guy that can get the ball in and get you some assists. I'm excited to see this midfield, kind of how it looks again here in this year. I think it's probably their strongest part of their team is they're in their midfield.
I feel like they always have like really good midfield players as well. My key to success, exactly what I touched on at the very beginning. Find what's missing between making this club a hard out in the playoffs and a real contender. Because when I see Orlando City, that's how I look at them every year. That team's going to be tough to beat. They're going to be in that 5th to 9th range in the Eastern Conference. I've never really seen them as a big title contender, though. And so what's missing? What do you need? I think they got some good pieces. Just what do you need to do to take this club to the next level? And maybe Christian will answer that with his X factors.
Yeah. Here's the thing with these X factors. We've talked a lot about this already. Number 1, Alex Freeman's replacement. I think whoever fills Freeman's role will be pivotal. Ball progression on the right flank, balance hinge on this. Freeman played a key role in 2025, so replacing him could determine another playoff push. Number 2, we talked about this as well, Maxime Crepeau's impact. Following the departure of longtime goalkeeper Pedro Gallesi, new signing Maxime Crepeau is arguably the biggest X factor in goal. His ability to stabilize a new-look defense and replicate or improve upon the shot-stopping capability of his predecessor is critical to the team's success. Number 3, someone we really didn't talk a lot about is Duncan McGuire's output. I think with the departure of Muriel, McGuire looks to be the key striker. The question here is, can Duncan secure 7 to 10 goals and increase his output from last year? If so, Orlando can become a true playoff contender.
It'll be interesting to see if this is a club. Sorry, I'm saving some pictures at the moment that I'm going to want to get up for our next team we're talking about. It's going to be interesting to see if they can take that next step forward. Christian, you know the question that I'm going to ask you here. What's your expectations overall after everything we talked about for Orlando City heading into the 2026 season?
You know, we're really getting into the meat of the East here, right? 9th place last year. I think they've lost too much. I think anywhere from 8th to 10th is about where they're going to be this year.
It's funny you say that because some people could say that I was hard on Austin FC, but I think about the same thing. I don't think they've done anything that convinces me that this is going to be a team that can compete with Inter Miami in the Eastern Conference or a team that we're going to talk about later on in this podcast. I do expect them to be around in that Orlando City range. Still, like if I was a betting man, I would tell you as high as 5th, as low as 9th, like somewhere in that range based off like how injuries play out. Hopefully they don't have to deal with any of them, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, it just depends what hits and what doesn't.
All right, let's go ahead. We're going to head up north for this next team, but we're staying in the Eastern Conference. We are here to talk about Chicago Fire, a team that has been on the rise drastically in the last couple seasons. Remember back when they had Shaqiri, man? We went and saw a game when he was playing for them. I don't even know if he played that night, but it was the coldest game we've ever been to in MLS. Like, it was absolutely freezing. I don't think he did play.
I remember us making the joke. We were like, Shaqiri, like, this is too cold. I'm staying in my hotel.
I mean, how cold was it? Really quick, Christian, not to get on a tangent, but like for people don't know, like we went out, there was maybe like 50 people in the stadium.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the exact temperature, but I will say, you know, being in Soldier Field in February and that wind off the river or off the lake. But I would like to throw a little side piece in there and say, yeah, there may have been about 100 people in there, but 70% of us were Cincinnati fans.
And that was the game. It was FC Cincinnati traveling to face Chicago. It was a fun night for Christian and myself. Chicago Fire, let's talk about the current rendition of this team. 13th in MLS, 8th in the East. Finished the season 15 wins, 11 losses, 8 draws. The team we just talked about, Orlando City, yeah, they knocked them out of the wild card, making the playoffs for the first time since 2017 under Greg Berhalter. You guys will know him from his days coaching the U.S. men's national team. And then they lost to Philly in round 1. Their leading goal scorer, Hugo Cypers. Sorry, that name I always struggle with that as well. He was absolutely terrific for this team. Finished the season with 17 goals. I believe it was like 19 in all competitions. He was absolutely terrific for them. Real quick, before we get into the heat of things, Christian, I want to give this special shout out. This was just announced the other day. Chicago gave us a first look at the renderings of their new stadium coming in, projected to open up in 2028. They'll be in the middle of the new European calendar season. Christian, what do you make of these images? I think they look absolutely terrific, and this is what this team really needs.
Yeah, I think it's going to be beautiful, and I think it's like you said, it's what every team in this league needs is their own stadium, a soccer-specific stadium. It just makes every game matter more.
It's going to be right on the water, too. I think it's going to be absolutely beautiful, and I can't wait to watch it open up. Hopefully by then our podcast will be 3 seasons in. We'll be able to travel to some of the games, give you guys some vlogs from the stadium, maybe the opening game at the stadium. We'll have to wait and see where we're at in life. But Christian, let me hand the microphone to you now. This was, every team we've talked about so far. We are now 17 teams in. This is the 18th team that we've talked about. Everyone has been like, oh, they could have done better. Oh, this is, they didn't meet their expectations. Oh, this was an awful year for them. This was a great season for Chicago with what, we've been in this league since about 2017, 2018. This team has never been good. Mm-hmm. And they had a terrific year last season.
Yeah, I think Greg Berhalter really figured something out here. And not only that, but they put the pieces around it, right? Like you hinted on, I had it right here, secured their first playoff berth since 2017. Like you said, that's about when we started really getting into the league, and this is the first time they've got in since then. They set a club record for the most road wins in a season with 9. And then you touched on Cypers, but I want to touch on Zinkernagel. He really had a breakout season last year, led the team with 27 goal contributions.
Also, we keep talking about like certain records, like first time making the postseason since 2017, broke the club record for most away wins. Also, they broke the club record for goals scored, 68 goals scored last season. This is a team who has struggled to find pieces to put the ball in the back of the net. And that's exactly what they did, bringing in Zinkernagel, bringing in Hugo Cypers. They have Jack Elliott, who I want to give a special mention to. This is a defender on the back line who can get up and can score goals. And he's done that great throughout his career. Another impact player that I have is Chris Brady. Chicago's young player of the year was Chris Brady in goal, 6 clean sheets, 93 saves all season with a 64% save percentage. Christian's just going to be shocked that I'm giving him praise because I'm not a big Chris Brady fan. I was getting ready to say something. I'm not a Chris Brady fan. I think he gets a little too much praise, but when I was looking at the numbers, doing my research before this breakdown, 64% is pretty incredible to be able to do that at such a young age. This is a team where offense was not a problem at all. They were winning shootout games. If you ever want a fun game to watch, if you're one of those people that you're like, oh, soccer's boring, they're not scoring goals and stuff. First off, you don't understand soccer at all. Secondly, if you have to watch a game, you really want to watch soccer, but you need a game, there's going to be a lot of goals. Watch Chicago last year. They would get in shootouts where the final score would be 3-2, 4-3. And they found a way. In the past, they would lose those games. The game that Christian and I went to, where FC Cincinnati was there, I believe in FC Cincinnati had to come back in that game, and I'm pretty sure they won 3-2 or 4-3. Or
I think it ended 3-3.
Yeah, it might have ended in a draw, yeah. But there was a lot of goals. This is a team that would always seem to give it away late. Oh, Chicago lost it again. Last year, they were finding ways to win those shootout games. I don't think it's sustainable. I think you need to strengthen that back line. And we're going to get into the moves they've made because they've had a lot of players leave and they've brought a lot of players in. But I do trust, Greg Berhalter, Christian, gets a lot of hate from his days for the U.S. men's national team, but I think he gets too much hate. I think this is a good coach, and I think they made the right hire when they brought him in, and he's obviously taking this club in the right direction. And if you guys didn't see, I've been posting on our social medias, me reacting and rating the new kits that came out. In the video I posted today, I said that I was super excited for Chicago this season, and I live by that statement. I'm very excited for this team.
Yeah, I think Chicago this year can, in a way, be kind of compared to Houston in the West. I think that this is a team that you will probably see a massive jump from last year, even though Chicago actually was in the playoffs. I think this is they're currently on similar trajectories of teams that we expect to have better years than, or even better years than they had last season.
All right, let's talk about the big player that left, Brian Gutierrez, was such a key to that squad last year. They sold him to Chivas in a multi-million-dollar deal. Christian, do you think that was too early for him, or you think that was the right move for Brian?
I mean, I don't necessarily know that I love him moving to Mexico, to be honest with you. But I think that, he had a great year. If he's going to get paid more, it was probably a better move for him on the scheme of, Chicago probably wasn't going to make him a DP. So go ahead and take your money, I guess.
Georgios Casillas also transferred permanently to FC Lugano. That's a club in Switzerland. Justin Reynolds is gone, traded to SKC. Kellen Acosta, the club and him decided mutually for him to part ways. He's now gone off to Poland. And then there's a slew of players who their contracts were declined. I'm not really going to go through all of them, but if Christian wants to bring someone up, he can. And then the people they brought in, Anton Selatros, a midfielder transferred from Ulk on a multi-year contract. Andre Franco, another midfielder, permanent contract from Porto. I'm going to butcher this name. This is going to be the most butchered of butchery. They brought in Memkezeli Mokazi, a defender, under 22 initiative from from South Africa. He came from the Orlando Pirates. He's a promising young center back. We just talked about how Orlando City was focusing on Brazilian players. This is a team that has brought in a lot of people from, or a few people from South Africa. So you got Bokazi, who I just talked about, and then you have Push Dithahane. He's a forward under 22 from TS Galaxy, also in South Africa. They brought in Robin Lode from Minnesota. We all know him. And then Jason Shokaluk, forward who they promoted. He won the Golden Boot for Chicago Fire too. So it'll be interesting to see him coming off the bench potentially to play some minutes behind Cypers. Christian, you were just laughing at me butchering those African names. Those were so tough. I'm so sorry to the players.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, Mbekazele Mbakazi, I think I probably did better than you. But I mean,
I think you did.
But yeah, here's the thing. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I'm some African soccer extraordinaire. But what I will say is South Africa is going to be in the World Cup for the first time this year. Or sorry, not the first time, but they qualified for the World Cup this year. And so them coming over here was probably a good move for them to kind of get in and get situated. But on top of that, the Mamadi Sundowns from South Africa won the African Champions League. So I think that South African soccer is kind of on the rise here. Orlando Pirates, I know, are a pretty well-known team when it comes to South Africa. So they bring in a young, like you said, under 22 initiative center back who can also kind of get up there and score and assist. He had 2 goals and 2 assists in 38 appearances. And then Puso Dithajane, 21-year-old winger from the TS Galaxy, saw 63 appearances in the South African League with 7 goals and 13 assists. So I'm excited to kind of see what they can do and get in and maybe make a push for their national team and then we can maybe watch them in the World Cup. I'm
very excited to watch these players develop. They're both young. I hope they can come in and help this squad instantly. Christian, before we go to your X factors and my key to success, any other players you want to bring up? Because we talked about Kuipers, 17 goals, 3 assists, absolute key. I mean, he was the engine that drove this club last season. Or you could argue Zinkernagel was 15 goals, 15 assists. I was losing my mind when we talked about Emil Forsberg having 11 and 11. This dude had 15 and 15. He took home the club MVP honors. Like, this is a player who really controlled that midfield. If you can't tell, I'm super pumped for Chicago Fire this season. I know you said they could be like the Dynamo in the East and take a leap forward, but how high do you see them going? Because for me, Chicago, if everything gels, could be a top 4 team in the East.
I'm losing you.
I got you. I got you back. Do you got me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. I was just saying, how high do you think Chicago can get in the Eastern Conference this year?
I don't think third or fourth is out of the question.
That's what I said. I said, I think you might have lost it, but I said, I think they could, if everything goes right for Chicago this season, they could get fourth in the East.
Yeah, I don't think it's out of the question. I think as long as everything goes right, I do think they lost big key pieces such as Brian Gutierrez. I think that is going to be a big loss for them. But yeah, I expect Zinkernagel and Kuipers, and I also kind of want to touch on Bamba, who was a guy who I think you kind of expect more for going into the season, right?
Certainly for my fantasy team. He's in my fantasy lineup right now. Key chance to say that MLS Fantasy is now on Kickbase. We are learning it as well, but check out the link in the description below if you want to join our fantasy league, our official podcast fantasy league. You can compete with myself, Christian, and some of our MLS content creator friends. So make sure to go over and check that out. Christian, I want to go ahead and get...
Let me throw out on that real quick that we did 11 players on it and 200 mil, and you really got to know your stuff to fill out this team, because it took me about 30 minutes to get in there and really break down the amount of money you're spending on players, and you're going to have to put in some role players in there versus, I feel like when we play fantasy, a lot of times we want all the star players. It makes it more interesting in my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely our league is definitely for the MLS sickos. Because if you put in Messi, you're going to have nothing but like 5 million players after that. So, yeah, definitely going to be a challenge, but definitely go check that out. My key to success for Chicago this season, find consistency in the back, and this is a real contender in the league. That's the only thing they're missing. They've got an amazing midfield presence with Zinkernagel, who can solidify that midfield. Kuipers up top is a real attacking threat. I'm only worried about that back line. You solidify that, this is a contender.
Yeah, okay. I'll actually start with that because I have 3 of my X factors here. That is my number 2, but I'll go ahead and start with that. It's defensive overhaul. Last year, conceding 60 goals. The Fire's ability to improve defensively is the primary X factor for moving from a lower seed playoff team to an elite contender. I think a goal here is for the team to aim to cut the allowed goals by about 30%. So basically the same thing you said. Number 1 X factor for me is the post-Gutierrez midfield evolution. With homegrown standout Brian Gutierrez transferred to Liga MX, the midfield requires a new identity and increased productivity. Names like Sergio Arregel Jr., Andre Franco, after he comes back from injury, and Anton Salatros come to mind on possible replacements for him. Tactical flexibility. We're going from a 4-3-3 versus a 3 center back. Greg Berhalter has experimented with using 3 center backs to provide more stability in the back line. How the team navigates the trade-offs between their high-scoring 4-3-3 and a more defensive 3 center back system will dictate their success in breaking into the top 4 of the Eastern Conference.
Well, Christian and I are both very excited for Chicago Fire this season. And if you are a Chicago fan, let us know in the comments if you are as hyped as we are. I know both of us will definitely probably try to go to at least one Chicago Fire this game this season, if not a couple. This is going to be a very fun team to watch, I believe. So definitely have to try to get out to their stadium. And we're very excited for the new stadium that they have opening up in a couple years. All right. With that, we got to go ahead, keep things moving, get to our next team in this Eastern Conference haul that we're doing, because the next 2 teams we're going to talk about are in the Eastern Conference. Let's go ahead, get to a team that is very near and dear to Christian's heart.
That was disgusting behavior by you, by the way.
That is the Columbus Crew, Christian's rivals. He's an FC Cincinnati fan. It was a down year for the Crew, and it just shows you how successful they've been with this being a down year, because it was still a decent year. 12th in MLS, 7th in the Eastern Conference, 14 wins, 8 losses, 12 draws. They lost in the first round to their Hell is Real Derby rivals, FC Cincinnati, 2-1. Their head coach, their legendary head coach, legendary as in their club, Wilfred Nancy, left to go to Celtic. That did not go over well for him. So he is now, as far as I know, jobless at the moment, because he lasted like 4 or 5 games, I think, maybe 6. They brought in Henrik Rydstrom. This guy has won back-to-back Swedish league titles, so they're hoping he brings kind of refreshed identity to this club. Diego Rossi was their leading goal scorer with 16 goals in MLS last season, and going into this year, they haven't really brought in any pieces that are going to take a lot of load off of him. That's my biggest concern. I'm sure we'll get into it more as I toss it over to Christian, but they're going to expect a lot from Diego Rossi this season to bring them success. So, Christian, how are you looking at your crosstown rivals, Columbus Crew?
I mean, as always, it doesn't matter how good or bad the teams are. The game between the Hellas Real Derby is always a great game, right? Cincinnati had plenty of years of being bottom feeders, but every time they came together, it was a great game. And the playoffs were no different. That was a fun 2 games to watch. But touching on Columbus going into this year, I guess back on last year, their consistency on the attack was an issue. I think you touched on that. Diego Rossi really held them up. I think that going into this year, you're expecting more from Daniel Gazdag.
Yeah, that's a big one that I had written down. They brought in, this is a club in the height of when they were really doing well. They brought in Diego Rossi to be that third option with Cucho Hernandez and oh my God, why can't I think of his name in the middle? Who is in the mid? They're not Lucas Celeryan. They had Lucas Celeryan. They had Cucho Hernandez. They brought in Rossi to kind of complete that incredible 3-headed monster that they had going on. Obviously, the other 2 players left Diego Rossi, and they brought in Daniel Gazdag, who did great for the Philadelphia Union and was a consistent goal scorer. Last season was his first year with the club, and he had 4 goals, 4 assists. That ain't going to cut it. You have to score. They expect, even bare minimum, they expect at least 8 to 10 goals out of Gazdag. And so that's going to be a key part of this season. They obviously, I'm not saying Diego Rossi is the only player they have. Max Arfsten has shown a great ability as well. 4 goals, 8 assists last season. They expect him to take another leap forward this year for them. And then I've always been, Christian might roll his eyes because I've always been way more into this guy than I think most MLS fans. But Mohamed Farsi on the defense, I think he's a great wingback who can get up there. He had 5 assists last year, 1 goal in only 18 games. I'm shocked they don't play him more. But I mean, Christian, if you look at it, another key piece to their team last season, Jason Russell-Rowe, they sold him to Toulouse for 2.1 to 2.5 mil. I don't think they've really brought anyone in to really, I mean, you look at Sakuo Bangora, midfielder acquired from a team in Israel. You have Jamal Thiare, midfielder acquired from Atlanta United. So they brought in a few pieces, but none of them are like to the level of a Zelarayán or a Cucho Hernandez that I think could get this club back to being a top team in the Eastern Conference. So I'm interested to see if this team even grows this year or maybe takes another step back with other teams improving.
There's a guy that they brought in. I'm not going to pretend like I know anything about this guy. And it's Nariman Akhundzadeh. He's going to be an Azerbaijan striker coming from Karabakh, who Karabakh usually is playing in European soccer. But he played 127 appearances for the club and recorded 35 goals and 17 assists. He helped them secure 3 consecutive league titles and an Azerbaijan Cup. He's a 21-year-old striker coming in. I mean, obviously the numbers are showing he can put the ball in the back of the net. So I guess that's kind of what you're banking on is him kind of turning into a help alongside the other two.
Is he? Do you know if he's a DP or under 22 initiative?
Being 21, I would assume he's under 22. I didn't do the ultimate research on the exact contract. I just wanted to kind of look into who he is as a player because I didn't know anything about him, but I did see they signed him. So I kind of wanted to look into him, and he kind of piqued my interest with those stats.
Well, I don't mean to jump the gun. We'll get to your X factors later on as we continue to talk here. But my key to success is a lot is riding on Diego Rossi's shoulders. So someone either needs to take that next step up, like an Arfston or a Gazdag getting back to what we know he can do and what he did for Philadelphia, or you'll need to grab a number 9 DP, which is why I was asking that, because, maybe this is the guy who can come in and provide goals, but I love Diego Rossi. I almost bought an LAFC Diego Rossi jersey when he was playing for them. I've always been a fan of Diego. Christian, tell me if you agree or disagree with this. I've never seen him as the number 1 guy, though. I think he's, when he was with LAFC, it was Carlos Vela, and then you had Diego Rossi, number 2. I've never seen Rossi as a number 1 option, and for Columbus, he is clearly the number 1 option there.
I mean, I think he can definitely be a number 1. I think he just needs a solid number 2, and I want to say that I think Gazdag can be that with this new with Rydstrom. Is that their new manager?
Yeah, it's Rydstrom.
Okay. So, yeah, I think that he fits more of his system, and I think that could definitely help him out. But I do want to go back. I did do a little more research on Akinzadeh. He is going to be an under 22 initiative and will also occupy an international spot.
Okay. So they expect him, when you sign someone through that under 22 initiative, you expect them to come in and do well right away. And on top of him, the other people they've kind of brought in that we haven't mentioned, they brought in Chase Adams, who has been signed as a homegrown, Quentin Elliott, Owen Prethus, also 2 defenders signed as a homegrown. So when you look at the moves, they had Darlington Nagbe, long-time MLS veteran. He finally retired. That sounds so vicious, but he retired last season after, completing his contract with the Crew. They also lost Derek Jones. They haven't lost anyone major other than Russell Rowe. And you could say Nagbe, but Nagbe was getting to the end of his career. And they haven't brought anyone huge in other than the player Christian mentioned. I must have missed him when I was doing my notes. So, Christian, I think the question before we get to your X factors, I mean, Diego Rossi, 16 goals, 4 assists. Can he be the number 1 guy? Like, can he? Can he bring this? Can he elevate this team, or do you think this is a team that this summer they need to look into bringing someone else in?
I guess it depends on what your definition of the number 1 guy. Right now, I don't think that their roster is strong enough to go win the MLS Cup. If that's what you're asking me, then no. Then they will. If that's what the plan is at the end of this year, then you need to bring in another marquee signing, I think, in the summer.
Yeah, I almost feel like this is going to be a retooling year for Columbus. Not to be, I'm sure Christian loves hearing that, being a Cincinnati fan, but not to be a Debbie Downer, but I just think, you look at it, if you took Carlos Vela away from LAFC, would they have been as good with Diego Rossi as the main guy? That's what I'm basically saying. I don't think they wouldn't have been. I'm not saying they can't go back out and finish 6th or 7th in the Eastern Conference. I just don't know if we're going to see the Columbus Crew be how they've been in the past, where they do go out and finish, 4th or 5th. I don't know if they can get to that level this year, I think is what I'm saying overall.
Fair.
Christian, go ahead, hit us with your X factor, sir. What 3 do you got for us?
Yep. We'll start off with system flexibility. Can the Crew transition smoothly between their 4-2-3-1 and a 4-3-3? Midfield depth will be key, which kind of transfers into number 2, and that's the midfield revolution post Darlington Nagbe. We're looking at replacing a legend here for Columbus. So following the retirement of midfield anchor Darlington Nagbe, the midfield will definitely be tested. And then number 3, we've kind of touched on this, and that's Daniel Gazdag's elevated role. Gazdag ability to build upon late 2025 chemistry with Diego Rossi to become the primary goal contributor for the team is the X factor here.
All right, let us know in the comments down below if whether you are a Columbus fan or you're just an overall MLS fan. Do you see Diego Rossi being able to elevate this club, or do you see them taking a kind of a gap year and retooling under their new manager? We've got one more club. It's been a long stream here, Christian. If you just now joining us, we had some Wi-Fi connections, and we've been struggling to get the stream scheduled because our schedules have been so apart. And then we had some Wi-Fi issues. So we've got one more team to talk about. It's been a long stream. Let's go ahead and bring them up. Yeehaw! We're going to Nashville. I don't know why I did yeehaw, but you know what I meant. Like cowboy hats, all that fun stuff. Nashville SC, we talked about how it was an amazing season for Chicago Fire. It was a golden season for Nashville SC. I mean, the only way it could have gotten better is if they made a deeper playoff run or won MLS Cup or Supporter Shield. But 11th in MLS, 6th in the Eastern Conference, 16 wins, 12 losses, 6 draws. They defeated Austin FC for the U.S. Open Cup. That is, I should have fact-checked it more. Christian knows more about the other sports than I do. I was shocked when I heard this. That not only did they get their first trophy in club history, but they won the first major professional sports trophy for Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
I think that probably adds up.
Titans haven't won?
No. I don't
know. The Grizzlies haven't won?
Nope.
What is it, the Blues?
Now, the Blues are in St. Louis. You're talking about the Predators.
Not the Blues. Predators, yes. I'm not a hockey fan.
I don't believe they've won. The Tennessee Volunteers would be the only one that would come to mind.
But I think what they're saying is first professional. Like, obviously, being a college.
I'm not going to lie, wow, yeah, cool. They won the U.S. Open Cup. It was a weak Open Cup, though. A lot of teams didn't participate, so I kind of put that on the Mickey Mouse ring. But
yeah, well, hold on. It's still a trophy. They also made MLS Cup, and they put up a fight. Or not MLS Cup. They made the Eastern Conference playoffs, and they put up a fight against the eventual champions, Inter Miami. Took them 3 games to get knocked out in round 1. So you add all that up. This was by far their best season. They went on a 15-match unbeaten run in the middle of the year. Absolutely super tough to do. 75 goals scored in all competitions, 58 in MLS, allowed 45. They had a plus 13 goal differential. I think this is where we're starting to get to the good clubs last season, is once you start talking about Nashville SC and then the 10 other clubs that we'll talk about in other episodes. The man right there, bottom right-hand corner, Sam Surridge, in his second full season, or it might be his first full season, I think he came in halfway through 2024, I'm pretty sure. So first full season with the club, he blew up. He was an MVP finalist along, I believe, Bouanga and Messi were the other 2. Don't quote me on Bouanga. Obviously, Messi ended up winning it for the second year in a row. That's crazy to think about. Sam Surridge was an MVP finalist last year. 24 goals, 5 assists, 31 goals in all competitions. And then, Christian, there's another man, which we'll talk a little bit more about. Hani Mukhtar. Don't forget that he's still there in that midfield for Nashville. So, Christian, I did a lot of talking there to paint a picture of the incredible season they had. I'll hand it to you. What did you think about Nashville SC's 2025?
Yeah, I gave him a little crap on the Open Cup, as it was a bit of Mickey Mouse, if you ask me. But at the end of the day, it was a great season. 5th playoff appearance in 6 years. Lots of club records broken. Just to start off with, they had 75 goals across all competitions, which was a club record, and also 17 MLS wins was their most ever in a season. Sam Surridge set the Nashville single-season record, goals scored. Hani Mukhtar, as you touched on, 16 goals and 12 assists. He became the first MLS player with 80-plus goals and 60-plus assists in a 6-year span.
Whew. Also, another stat for you. Sam Surridge, Hani Mukhtar, one of the few duos in MLS last season to have 40-plus combined goals between them. And here's the crazy thing about Nashville SC. You keep sitting there, okay, and what went wrong? What went wrong? Well, obviously they didn't win MLS Cup or Supporter Shield, so they got to improve somehow. I think they got better. This is a team that the signings they brought in, so who did they lose? They lost Jacob Schaffelberg, a forward transferred to LAFC for GAM. He's a young forward. Who are we going to bring in to replace him? How about Warren Madrigal, DP signing, 21-year-old attacker signed from Saprissa. How about him to replace Schaffelberg? So you basically swap those two. You lost Jonathan Perez, a young, had some good moments in the midfield for them. He was transferred to Chivas for a club record fee. You lost another good young player. Who are you going to bring in? How about Christian Espinoza, signed from San Jose as a free agent? Take it like that. You replace Schaffelberg with Madrigal, and you replace Jonathan Perez for Christian Espinoza. And then the only other people they lost, Brian Acosta, who left the club, another midfielder, and then they lost former Galaxy player Gaston Brugman, who they declined his option and let him walk as well. That's who's left. That's who's been brought in. It's not this huge list like other clubs. They lost 4 players. They brought in 2. And Christian, we talked about it when we were discussing San Jose. It was shocking to let Christian Espinoza leave. He had a down season last year, but last season he had 4 goals, 12 assists. So I think they wanted more goals from him. But how about this? In 3 out of the 4 seasons he's been in the league, 3 out of the last 4 seasons, he's had 12 plus assists. That's insane. You're adding that to the midfield with Surridge, and you're going to have Espinoza and Mukhtar in the midfield.
Mm-hmm.
Take it away. I can't talk. I will rant. I'll praise this team all day about the moves they did. I think this is the best team we've talked about right now about the moves they've made.
Yeah, I love the moves. The move for Espinoza on a free transfer from San Jose. He's leaving San Jose as the all-time assists leader with 83. Brings even more creativity to this midfield. I don't want to say that Madrigal can be a one-for-one replacement for Schaffelberg. I think Schaffelberg brought a piece to this team that was so important when he played as a super sub, or even when he started. He just brought physicality and speed to the team. I don't know much about Warren Madrigal, but what we do know is he's a Costa Rican international, had 29 goals and 12 assists across 132 professional appearances, and at just 21 years old. And we know that Costa Rica has been kind of on the up and coming on the CONCACAF plane as well.
Christian, I see what you're saying. I don't know what it is. I have a feeling in my gut that Madrigal is going to be really good for them. I mean, Schaffelberg, like you said, great coming off the bench. Good when he started. There's a reason LAFC came out and got him in a trade. There's a reason they wanted him. LAFC doesn't just bring anybody in. But I think they did a good replacement. I think this is as good as you can get in Madrigal, bringing him in. Again, a young player that you can develop. It's crazy that he's only 21 years old and he's on a DP contract. So they're obviously expecting big things out of him. I want to ask you this, Christian. Hani Mukhtar, Sam Surridge, Christian Espinoza. How many better trios in the league are there? Attacking trios. That could be deadly this season.
I mean, I think currently we see LAFC, just Bouanga and Son. I mean, whoever they want to throw in there with them is better. Messi, whoever you want to throw with him is better. That's just off the top of my head what I can think of.
Get back to me in a few days.
But I mean, yeah, I don't disagree. Like you said, Espinoza kind of took a step back last year in his statistics, but at the end of the day, it's a guy who can hit free kicks, and at the end of the day, you can't go wrong with a free transfer for Christian Espinoza.
Yeah, absolutely insane work. I'll go ahead and get to my key to success. This is the first team. I don't have anything really. I said win the East and upset Miami. I have big ambitions for this club. I think this is from the clubs we've spoke about so far. I know Christian's going to throw out FC Cincinnati. We know how dangerous they are. Actually, let me pull up really fast.
Just spoke about Cincinnati.
We haven't spoke about Cincinnati. We haven't spoke about Philadelphia, the reigning Supporter Shield champs. Charlotte, or have we talked about Charlotte? No, we haven't talked about
Miami.
I'm only talking in the Eastern Conference. Right Miami. Now. Well, I'm saying if Miami's the pinnacle, we haven't talked about New York City FC, Charlotte, Miami, Cincinnati, and Philadelphia are the 5 teams that we still have to talk about here in the East. I think Nashville is the biggest contender. They obviously showed they can beat Miami. They took them to 3 games in round 1 last year. I think this team can compete. I'm very excited. Maybe I'm overhyping it, but Christian Espinoza, Surridge, and a Mukhtar trio is very deadly in my opinion. So that's my key to success. You've done everything that I could have asked you to do during this offseason. Win the East, upset Miami. Oh, and we didn't talk about, the one thing they did lose. I can't believe I missed it in my notes. We haven't even brought him up. Walker Zimmerman, obviously going to Toronto, but he was already a defender who was starting to slow down a little bit. And I'm a big fan of Jack Maher from IU. And I know they're hoping he can kind of fill that void and take over like that lead duty in the back line.
Yeah, get into my X factors here. Number 1, we've touched on this a lot. It's Christian Espinoza. If his creativity unlocks defenses consistently, Nashville's attack could become one of MLS's most potent. Number 2 is going to be Sam Surridge goal-scoring consistency. Following a stellar 2025 where he was Landon Donovan MLS MVP finalist and finished with over 30 goals across all competitions, forward Sam Surridge is crucial. If he can replicate or even exceed his 2025 production, Nashville will remain a top contender in the Eastern Conference. And then number 3 is something we haven't really talked about with a lot of these teams because this is where we're really getting into these guys who are dealing with it, and that's managing CONCACAF Champions Cup fatigue, right? Having qualified for the 2026 CONCACAF Champions Cup by winning the U.S. Open Cup, the team must manage fixture congestion, the ability to balance a deep run in this competition, starting in February against Atletico Ottawa, just a little plug, without jeopardizing their MLS regular season form is a major factor, especially after depth issues identified in 2025.
And we didn't even bring up that BJ Callahan did a great job coming from the U.S. men's national team, turning this club around. Because I think ahead of 2024, they were starting to kind of go down after what we saw their inaugural season. And now he's been able to turn this, him and Greg Berhalter finding success in the Eastern Conference. It's really magical and wonderful to see for them. So there we go. Through all of it, we got through 5 more teams. Christian, we've got about a week and a half to get through 10 more teams. So I feel confident saying we'll have another stream coming up for you guys very soon. Also, we have a special stream coming next Tuesday evening. We're going to record it at 8 p.m. Eastern. It probably won't come out till Thursday. Make sure to follow us on our social media accounts at MLS Fulltime for all the details. But we're going to have Fabian Wrinkle. I think I said his name right. I am so sorry if I didn't. He is doing a massive podcast tour. And we have been very lucky for him to agree to come on the show. This is something that we were trying to get worked out. If you don't follow him, make sure to do that at Fabian Rankel. We're excited to have him on. We're still discussing what we're going to talk about with him. We don't know if we're going to do 5 more team previews or if we're going to go ahead and record our MLS match day 1 or match week 1 preview. We might do that with him. Where if we record that with him, it won't come out till Thursday or Friday because we want to release that right before the match week begins. And that will have stuff like games we're looking forward to, fantasy insight from us and other fun kind of segments that we'll have to get you hyped up and ready for the MLS match week 1. But yeah, great stuff. We got huge things on the horizon. Christian mentions if you're going to the St. Louis City SC game and you run into us, take us to the best soccer spots. We're going to be vlogging our entire trip to St. Louis when they host Charlotte FC. That is the opening game, not just the opening game for St. Louis and Charlotte. It is the opening game of the 2026 MLS season. We are going to be in St. Louis for that. Kickoff time at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. So we're going to be in the crowd and just fun, exciting stuff coming up, Christian. Super fun stuff.
Yeah, mentioned we got a week and a half-ish till the season starts, so we got to get foot on the gas and get to work and get caught up because we've fallen a little behind here. But yeah, I'm excited.
Other than that, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed any of these recaps, make sure you hit that like button, share this video, helps us get out there a little bit, and subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, and we'll catch you guys next time. Have a good one.